Ho ho ho, and welcome back to more Films Under Constant Critique, where we take a look at films, some good, some bad, and some downright awful. I'm Bongo Baikov, joined by our host Maverick, Dren, Zaria. This week we are taking a look at the Christmas classic, Die Hard.
Yep, my favorite Frank Sinatra movie. Also, be honest, you just want to do your Alan Rickman impression. That's why you want to do this.
Of course. I was considering doing the whole podcast in my Alan Rickman voice.
Okay. And basically, we're doing all the Die Hard movies where Bruce Willis had hair, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because as everyone knows, the series is about a man fighting his male pattern baldness.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw
losing.
that as I saw that as a meme earlier, actually, when I was searching for Die Hard memes. But yeah. So Die Hard was released on July 15th, 1988. It cost about $30 million and made about $140 million, which that made it
That's pretty good.
10th highest grossing film of 1988.
Huh.
Let's see, number 1 was Rain Man.
Huh.
2 was Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
3 was Coming to America.
Coming to America. I don't blame them. That's a funny movie. Crocodile Dundee 2 was 4th.
Twins was 5th.
Rambo 3, which we did that on the podcast.
Yeah.
Fish Called Wanda, Cocktail, and Big was 9th. Huh.
Big.
Yeah. Alright, so this movie was directed by John McTiernan, who also directed Predator.
Huh.
And The Hunt for Red October, among other things.
How could you leave out Rollerball?
Rollerball, because it's terrible, that's why. And you should recognize the names of the writers. One of them is Confederate General Jeb Stuart.
Which makes it the second time he's appeared on the podcast as a writer. Did he show up in Army of Frankensteins at all?
I don't remember. I just remember Grant is in it and Robert E. Lee, anyway. And Abraham Lincoln and John Wilkes, apparently. But I don't remember if Jeb Stuart was in it. But he wrote The Fugitive, which we did on the podcast not too long ago. And Stephen E. D'Souza, which he wrote and directed the Street Fighter movie.
Yeah.
Which we literally just did.
He also did Judge Dredd.
Judge Dredd, yes, the Sylvester Stallone one.
Wait, he did the live-action Flintstones movie? This is a weird filmography.
He wrote it, right?
Yeah.
The cast of Die Hard, we got Bruce Willis. I mean, do we really need to say who Bruce Willis is? I mean,
just, one of the most famous action heroes of all time. Action hero actors, I should say.
Although at the time, he was known for comedy. Like the show Moonlighting. And he also had a singing career. Where he went by the name Bruno. So at the time, people thought it was ridiculous having him in an action movie. And like before they cast Bruce Willis, they basically asked everybody else to be in this movie. Like I think this started off as like a Commando sequel. So like Arnold was gonna be in it. So obviously it's one Bruce Willis. Probably the most famous Bruce Willis role, aside from like maybe Sixth Sense, I guess. Mostly because of the twist with him. He really did die hard in that movie. Okay, so we also have Alan Rickman, obviously. Are you gonna do your impression?
And was this his first? Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot.
Okay. This was his first theatrical film. Like, he'd done, like, I think, like, a TV adaptation of Romeo and Juliet before this, but this was, like, the first theatrical film he was in. Which, that's an amazing debut right there. I mean...
He apparently played Rasputin in a TV show.
I haven't seen that, but I've heard of it. What's interesting, actually... I read this a while ago. His first theatrical role was almost in Return of the Jedi.
Huh.
Did you not? You didn't know that, did you?
Who would he have played?
He auditioned to play Moff Jerjerrod, which he's the guy who says to Vader, "We shall double our efforts."
We shall double our efforts. Hold on, I can't whistle on the S.
Yeah, he says it so fast in that movie, and that character originally had a much bigger part in that movie too. Like, he was supposed to be like, he had this like moment like towards the end of the movie where he was supposed to realize, maybe, wait, are we the baddies or something? It's like, and a lot of like, most people know who Alan Rickman is. I mean, he's Severus Snape from the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, that's probably his most famous role.
For me, I associate him with this, Die Hard. He's the Sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
He was in Galaxy Quest.
I was about to say that is one of the best Star Trek movies, Galaxy Quest. Have you seen Galaxy Quest, by the way?
A couple times, but it's been a while.
It's hilarious. That movie's really
Oh
funny.
yeah.
But anybody who hasn't seen Galaxy Quest, watch it. It's hilarious. By Grabthar's hammer, you shall be avenged. Reginald Vell Johnson, which Carl Winslow from Family Matters is probably what most people know him from. He's also in Crocodile Dundee. And he got the Ghostbusters out of jail in the first Ghostbusters movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, we have a returning cast member, Hart Bochner, which he played Ethan in Supergirl.
Oh, yay.
Thankfully, this was a much better part for him. I bet most people don't even realize it's the same guy either. Because he doesn't have the beard in that one. We got Paul Gleason, which he basically plays the asshole in every 80s movie, including this one. He's in The Breakfast Club and Trading Places, among other things. And then this one, he's the really annoying cop that's giving
bad orders, basically.
We got William Atherton, which he's another Ghostbusters actor because he played Walter Pack. Another actor that gets typecast as an asshole, apparently. Because he plays the reporter in this one, Richard Thornburg. He's also in Real Genius. Grandel Bush, which we just had him in Street Fighter.
Oh, yeah.
Balrog.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
And he plays one of the FBI agents in this.
We also have Devoru White.
Who's that?
Argyle.
Okay, what else is he?
He was also in The Blues Brothers as the kid that tried to steal the guitar from Ray Charles.
Okay. Interesting. Robert Davi, which he's the other FBI agent in this, and he's also the main Bond villain in License to Kill.
Oh.
And he's not the only Bond villain in this either, because the henchman from The Living Daylights is also in this. That's one of the bad guys. The guy that steals the candy bar was also in Escape from LA. Yeah, another Ghostbusters actor. Oh my goodness. One of the bad guys was Vigo the Carpathian in Ghostbusters 2.
It's a lot of Ghostbusters connections.
Yes. We have a returning composer because Michael Kamen also scored Highlander.
Oh.
And there is, however, one track by James Horner, but I'll get to that. Okay, so initial thoughts. I don't know if... Do you want to start here, or...
Yeah, I can start. So, I don't exactly remember when the first time I watched this movie is, so I can't really... I can't talk too much about that like I usually do, but... I tend to watch this movie at least once a year, usually around Christmas time. I'll watch this, then 2 and 3, and sometimes 4.
Sometimes 4, yeah, that sounds about right. Never 5.
Yeah.
Never 5.
No. We pretend 5 doesn't exist. But I think I went into it and I came out of it with a lot of similar thoughts. It's a really good action film. It's really funny at the same time. It's a bit long, but it's incredibly enjoyable.
Look, I'm just another American who saw too many movies as a child. I mean, what is there to say? It's Die Hard. Like, honestly, I've seen this movie enough times, I probably could have just done the podcast without rewatching it. Just because, I know, I basically know the beats at this point, It's obviously my favorite Christmas movie. I mean, along with the first Lethal Weapon movie. And then, sometimes around Christmas time, my family members, they give me, Die Hard-themed Christmas gifts. So, there's, a John McClane ornament we put on the Christmas tree.
Oh, is that the ornament where he's crawling through the duct?
Yes, yep.
Yeah, I think we've got one, too.
Now I know what a TV dinner feels like. The best ones, though, I have a Die Hard board game.
How do you make a board game out of Die Hard?
I've never played it, actually. It's still... I think I got it, last year, and I still haven't opened it, but just... It's Die Hard as a board game. I mean, that's so... But even better, I also have Die Hard the Coloring Book.
Yeah!
Yeah, Die Hard, it's a great movie. The cast is really good, especially Bruce Willis and Alan Rickman. It's hard to really imagine anybody else in those two roles at this point.
Yeah.
There's some good action scenes. It's a good premise, too. It's a simple but effective premise. One guy against a group of thieves pretending to be terrorists.
Yeah.
That's one thing a lot of people get right. They describe the plot I heard, terrorists take over a building. They're not terrorists.
No, they're not terrorists and they're not taking over a building. They're thieves trying to rob the building.
Yeah, they're glorified bank robbers, basically. And I also read the book recently for comparison. Should I talk about that now, or should I...
Let's talk about it a bit now.
Okay, so For anybody that doesn't know, Die Hard was based on a book called Nothing Lasts Forever by Roderick Thorpe. It was a sequel to the book The Detective, which was made into a movie that starred Frank Sinatra, so that's why I made the Frank Sinatra joke earlier, if anybody doesn't know. So when the movie Die Hard was made, because it was a sequel, they were contractually obligated to ask Frank Sinatra if he wanted to be in the movie. And he turned it down because he was in his 70s and he'd basically retired from acting at that point. Coincidentally, Bruce Willis was an extra in a Frank Sinatra movie.
Really?
He walks past Frank Sinatra in the movie The First Deadly Sin.
Huh.
But yeah, so basically Frank Sinatra was the original John McClane. So the book, which I hadn't read it before, I'd heard about it and stuff, and I saw a video about it, but I was just curious if it was any good or not. It's a bit different from the movie. So instead of Lieutenant John McClane, we have Detective Joe Leland.
It's not as catchy of a name.
Yeah. Feels more like the name of Frank Sinatra character. Oh, wait a minute. Instead of having to save his wife, he has to save his daughter. So I guess that gives it something in common with the fourth Die Hard movie.
Yeah?
Joe Leland is a much less likable character than John McClane. This book was written in the 70s, I should point out. He's really racist and sexist, for one thing.
Oh boy.
He's really burnt out. His marriage fell apart and his wife died, and now he's an alcoholic. So yeah, it's a really depressing book, actually. His backstory is really depressing.
He sounds like a very stereotypical hard-boiled cop.
Yeah, very much so. On the plane over to LA, he starts a relationship with a stewardess and talks to her on the phone throughout the book, yeah. He's just hanging out in the building with all these terrorists and stuff, and occasionally he talks to her on the phone.
That's so weird.
And he also doesn't really seem like he wants to save anyone. He kind of just wants to get out alive and bang the stewardess. It's more of an inconvenience for him that all this happened. He's also a lot older than John McClane, because it's mentioned he fought Nazis in World War II.
Oh, that's a lot older.
And he has gray hair, so yeah. If they had kept it this way, they could have just made it a Frank Sinatra movie.
Yeah.
The setting is basically the same, though. An LA skyscraper taken over by terrorists / thieves. Hans Gruber is named Tony Gruber.
Ugh. That just doesn't sound right.
I think his nickname also is Tony, the Red Gruber or something like that, but anyway.
Huh.
He doesn't do a whole lot in the book, unfortunately, because the book is mostly just shown where Joe Leland is. It's not told from his point of view, but it kind of is. Anyway. There is a character named Ellis, and a character named Dwayne Robinson, and Al Powell, so there are some
loose connections to the movie.
Instead of the Nakatomi Corporation, it's the Klaxon Oil Corporation. There are quite a few parts from the book that ended up in the movie. The part where he runs barefoot through the glass is in the book.
Oh, wow.
The part where he jumps the building hanging from the fire hose, yeah, that's in the book, too.
Wow.
Throwing explosives down the elevator shaft. Yep, it's in the book as well. Crawling through the vents. Yep, that's there too. And also the sweater with now I have a machine gun.
That's in the book?
It kind of is, except it's now we have a machine gun. Ho ho ho. So it's slightly different, but yes, it's there.
That's like the one thing I would have expected not to be in the book.
But the dialogue, most of the dialogue is like completely different though. There's like, I don't think there's like yippee-ki-yay motherfucker or anything like that. It's a very quick read, but it really only has like the basic outline of Die Hard. There's not a lot of fleshing out here, aside from with giving John McClane, Joe Leland, a really depressing background. It's a very dour book. Like, the humor that made the movie so memorable is not there. It's a lot more cynical, especially with the ending. The ending is a lot darker than the movie. So what happens is Hans Gruber, Tony Gruber in the book. He falls off the skyscraper, but he takes his daughter down with him.
Oh.
So basically it would be like if Die Hard ended with John McClane's wife dying.
Yeah, that's a bit different.
Okay, but yeah, so that's Die Hard the book. Nothing lasts forever. And I didn't. As for whether it was a good book or not, I mean, it's kind of interesting to read just for comparison. But the movie's a lot better. Honestly, the movie's way better. But back to the movie. Unless you have anything else, any questions about Nothing Lasts Forever?
No, I think I'm good to move on.
Okay. Die Hard 2 was also based on a book. I'm gonna read that and then see, like, where the similarities are with that one as well. Okay, so the plot, I mean, do we need to say what the plot of Die Hard is? I mean...
it can be summarized: a bunch of thieves pretending to be terrorists take over a building. A rogue New York cop who is in L.A. ruins their plans, and that's basically it.
Yeah, the cop, of course, named Joseph Gordon Die Hard, which he's from New York. He goes to a Christmas Eve party in L.A., not just in LA, in an LA skyscraper. There's some thieves pretending to be terrorists, led by Captain I'm a Bad Guy, with enough plastic explosives to orbit Arnold Schwarzenegger. They take over the skyscraper, take the guests hostage. There's an estranged wife. Again, it's Die Hard.
Yeah, everyone has seen Die Hard.
I would hope, at least. So now he's alone, tired, and hasn't seen diddly squat from any of the cops outside.
He's also not got any shoes.
Yes, he's Shoeless Joe, I guess. Okay, so let's start with the pros here. Bruce Willis.
Yeah.
It's his best role for a reason. Like... what works here is that he's just a regular cop. He's not like...
He's not like a Schwarzenegger or like a Stallone type, where it's just like a massive statue of a man. He's just a dude.
Yeah. Which I think is why, again, people they thought Bruce Willis was a weird casting choice, but in that regard, it works. Whereas some of the later Die Hard movies do not, because they kind of turn him into that, like, invincible action star type. And you just feel bad for the dude. He's just... The poor guy, he's just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And he's a mess by the end of the movie. He's like covered in
He
blood.
just gets beat to hell. He's bloody, like his feet are all cut up from a bunch of glass.
So much sweat. Like he doesn't even have a shirt or shoes by the end of the movie.
He's just filthy because he's been crawling around air vents the whole movie.
Come out to the coast. We'll get together. Have a few laughs.
That's another thing. His one-liners in this, and just I think the writing in general is really strong and really funny.
It's a really good script. There are so many memorable lines. I wasn't sure which ones to write down and which ones not to. Like
the most famous one is obviously the yippee-ki-yay motherfucker, which has been in every Die Hard movie since.
I love that. Yeah, like, but the other movies they use it like out of context because the reason why he said it in this movie is because like Alan Rickman's like he calls him a cowboy, and so he's like saying something like like.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
He's like just in this like really stressful situation. Like the humor comes more from just how he's just
losing his mind.
He's like, going crazy the whole time. Yeah. Like that one part when he's like on the phone, like trying to call like the police.
Attention, whoever you are, this channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
No fucking shit, lady! Do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
That one just kills me. It's so funny. And then, of course, when he leaves he kills the one guy and then leaves the Christmas sweater with the...
with the "now I have a machine gun, ho ho ho."
It's not just that, it's the way, also just the way Alan Rickman says, like...
Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
It's so funny. He's not like it's also just like he's just hiding the whole time too. Like he's just so panicked about like whether they'll find him or not, which you don't normally see in action movies. Usually they're just running out, guns blazing.
Yeah.
Because he's actually terrified he might die. This is an action movie where the hero might actually die in this situation, huh? That's new.
And he does like say that basically in one line that I kind of like, where he watches Mr. Nakatomi died, and he's like kind of beating himself up over it. And he goes, "Why the hell did you stop him, John? Because then you'd be dead too, asshole."
Yeah, that's a good one. And he only went to this Christmas Eve party because he's just trying to get back together with his wife. And then she didn't even want to like use the last name McClane in the computer system, which is interesting.
That's actually one other thing that I also like was sort of the relationship between John and Holly. Because they're kind of subtle with it at first, because there's this conversation that Argyle and John have where you find out it's not going well, and then when John gets there and sees that she changed her last name, then that's when you kind of understand like how bad the relationship is going.
And they get in that argument, and you kind of see, oh yeah, this is why they're not getting along. Yeah, the only reason he went there was because he wanted to see his wife.
And instead he ends up killing like 17 terrorists.
What a hell of a day, yeah. Just wanted to have a nice Christmas Eve party, and then that all changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
He just wanted to go to the coast, get together, and have a couple laughs. Laughs.
But my favorite character in this movie is, in performance, Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber.
He is so great at this role. You can tell that he did like theater acting before this movie, just the way he plays Hans.
Yeah, he's one of I mean, Alan Rickman's a great actor, but also just Hans is one of my favorite movie villains of all time. The part of it's just he's such a great foil to John McClane.
Because he's like this like super like proper uptight European, almost like a gentleman character. And then you have John McClane, this foul-mouthed New York dirty cop.
It's so funny, yeah. And a lot of it also is just Hans, like, just kind of just bragging about, like, how, like, classy he is and stuff. Like, there's one part where he has this quote about Alexander the Great. He's, like, trying to brag about how well-read he is, and it's not even the right quote. The real quote is, like, the exact opposite of what he says in the movie, because in the movie it's about... He's talking about how Alexander wept that there were no more worlds to conquer, whereas the real quote was that he wept because he hadn't conquered anything yet. Yeah, Hans, your classical education is bullshit. And Alan Rickman he has one of those voices that just... It's very soothing, but also it just sounds so villainous, too.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if there's any, like, Alan Rickman audiobooks. Can you give us a sample of, like, Alan Rickman reading an audiobook?
Hold on, we need a good audiobook.
Just, like, pull some random book out and then read it like you're Alan Rickman. That's all I'm asking for.
Give me a second, hold on.
Oh, goodness.
Whatever in creation exists without my knowledge, exists without my consent. He's turning into Dr. Evil, hold on a second.
Wait, what book are you reading?
Blood Meridian.
Blood Meridian? Oh, great.
With Alan Rickman as Judge Holden. Some American cowboy.
And what's interesting about Hans also is he's a villain that doesn't think he's a villain.
No.
He's basically just a thief with a huge ego. Like...
Yeah.
Which I love. And that was something Alan Rickman said, was he was playing the character like he was the protagonist of his own movie. Which is a great way to approach a villain, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, he is really, like, egotistical, but he is really smart, like, he's always, like, one step ahead of everyone, and he seems to have a plan that makes sense and is well thought out. It's just
John McClane exists, so it gets ruined.
Yeah, if it weren't for that meddling cowboy ruining everything for him. And he also he has a lot of, like, little moments, too, of, like, personality that I like how he keeps complimenting Takagi's suit. Like, before he kills him, he, like, says, I'll probably just put the actual audio in, unless you wanted to.
Hold on, I'm trying to get the actual quote pulled up. I was on the wrong page. Nice suit. John Phillips, London. I have two myself. He says that line weird. Have you noticed that? Like, he tries to add a bit of a German accent onto that line.
Yeah. I was talking about I was talking about a line later, though.
Oh, different line where he compliments the suit?
It's when he says...
It's a very nice suit, Mr. Takagi. To be ashamed to ruin it.
And then he shoots him after that, but yeah. There's a lot of lines from him I could just pull out, honestly. Like, maybe I'll get to them later. But it's also an interesting setting for an action movie, too. Just this huge skyscraper, and there are a bunch of party guests and German thieves, and John's just running around hiding the whole time, so Thankfully, there's a lot of places to hide for him. Otherwise, this would be a very short movie.
I will say that is one thing. It's not necessarily a con, but I think they could have used the skyscraper setting a bit better. Because all you ever really see him go through are like the floors that are under construction.
The vents.
It's not.
He goes through like the vents and the elevator. He goes through the elevator shaft.
But you don't really get to see like anything else of the skyscraper. Like at one point we see there's a department store somewhere inside.
You see quite a bit of it.
You
see the roof, you see like the lobby. You see where all the guests are like partying.
But I think there could have been like a bit more action like spread out throughout the skyscraper instead of just in like the same looking areas.
It is 40 stories, so yeah, maybe they could have. You just have action scenes on like every single floor. Maybe they could have made it like a Game of Death where he like kills a bunch of guys on one level, then moves up to the next one, like sort of like a video game or something. This movie also taught me how to make fists with my toes.
Yeah, to cure airplane sickness.
I have done that before. I've sometimes just take my socks off and just do that, you know. I haven't been on a plane before, though, but, you know. I usually don't like being barefoot, though, because of, well, broken glass. I mean, for similar reasons. You know. It's another thing you learned from Die Hard. Don't run around near broken glass with no
shoes.
There's a Run DMC song in this towards the beginning.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Christmas in Hollis. This is also just like RoboCop. This is another movie where there's just a ridiculous number of memorable lines.
Yeah.
And I honestly wasn't even sure which ones to write down. That's actually quite a bit of my notes, is just, here's a line. Like when Hans says that Mr. Takagi won't be joining us for the rest of his life, or something like that.
There's one that I like that kind of went under the radar for me the first few times I watched it. So when Hans is trying to get Carl to shoot the glass, he says it in German first, but the guy doesn't understand it, so he has to repeat it in English.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Who's driving this car? Stevie Wonder. Hey Roy, how you feeling? Pretty fucking unappreciated, Al.
That's a good one. There's the welcome to the party, pal, when he throws the body out onto the police car.
That's pretty good. I love the interaction with Ellis and Hans.
Hans, Bobby, I'm your white knight.
Yeah, it's just this guy. He was doing too much cocaine,
Yeah, just like the sleaziest businessman you could imagine.
And just it's so funny, like just how he's like clearly just kissing Hans' ass, and like Hans like sees right through it, and just Alan Rickman's dry delivery of some of these lines, like.
You are so perceptive.
Yeah, you're very perceptive.
Hans, Bobby, I'm your white knight.
I must have missed 60 minutes. What are you saying?
It was just, like Ellis, he's so out of his element. That scene, I just find it so funny.
Argyle is pretty fun throughout the movie.
He's pretty funny, yeah. Like, that's another thing about this movie. Even, like, some of the minor characters are pretty memorable, like Argyle and Ellis.
Or the, what's his name? I think it's Ted.
Another thing about Argyle, he like sits in that limo listening to the same Stevie Wonder song for like 3 hours.
Yeah, for like the whole movie, he's just listening to the song on the radio before realizing something's wrong.
Yeah, it's what?
And there's also Theo, the guy that Gruber brought on to like hack into the vault, basically.
He was funny, yeah. He's like the only one of the like thieves pretending to be terrorists. He's the only one of them that seems to be having any fun during the whole thing. I guess because his job is like he doesn't have to really kill anyone. He just has to hack into the computer.
Well, I like when he's giving them directions and they blow up like the armored car, and he goes,
Oh my god, the quarterback is toast!
Yeah, that's pretty good. The FBI agents, they're pretty memorable. When they're flying in the helicopter and one of them shouts,
The slag fucking Saigon! Hey, Slick! I was in junior high, dickhead.
I also like the way the terrorists like sneak in. They like it's Theo and another guy. They're like pretending like they're talking about sports or something, and then they stop and one of them shoots the guy at the front desk.
And then the others are just sort of driven in underground through like just like through a loading zone.
Yeah, the shot of Hans getting out of the like car when you first see him, he's just like, you instantly know he's the leader just from like the way he's like entering and like the way he's dressed, you know.
And that's another thing we haven't talked about. The movie is shot pretty well.
It is, yeah. There's a lot of like, I forget sometimes like how many memorable shots. Like, I mean, the part with the like probably the most famous is like the part with the skyscraper blowing up and he's jumping off the building.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good shots of like Hans and stuff.
Like when Hans falls off the building.
Yeah, that's one of the more famous ones. Which what's funny about that is like when they dropped him, they didn't tell.
Oh yeah, they didn't tell him. Or like they told him that they were gonna drop him on 3, but they dropped him on 1 or something like that.
So it's his actual reaction, and they only did it. I think they only did it in just that one take. Also got Carl Winslow is in this, but no Steve Urkel.
Sadly.
Which I wonder if there's a Family Matters episode that did a Die Hard parody. There might have been. It was also just kind of funny watching this, and like some of the terrorists, I'd be like, oh, I think I've seen them in like some other action movie at some point. Like there were a few shots where Carl looked kind of like Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, I think that might just be because they're a blonde European.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the guy that played Carl, wasn't he like a Russian ballet dancer?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, Alexander Godunov.
Not Baryshnikov, though.
No. Although very similarly to Baryshnikov, he did in fact defect from the USSR.
Okay. There's also this YouTube video I saw where they had some doctors like analyze the Die Hard movies and figure out how many John McClanes it would have taken to survive the Die Hard movies. In the first one, it would have taken 4 John McClanes to survive.
Wow.
Die Hard. And what's funny is they also did one for Home Alone, and Harry and Marv die more times in 2 Home Alone movies than John does in 5 Die Hard movies.
Oh my. That kid just tortured him.
Yeah, which means Kevin McAllister is deadlier than the Die Hard villains. That's crazy. And like both movies have characters stepping barefoot in glass too.
That's true.
And they're both Christmas movies. At least the first two of both. Well, first two Die Hard movies are Christmas movies, and all the Home Alone movies are Christmas movies. I'm gonna assume they are because I haven't seen all of them.
And you probably never will, because who would want to do that to themselves?
I know I've seen the first four. I don't think I saw the fifth one. I don't even know how many there are, honestly. Are there 6 of them?
I think there's 6 or 7.
I don't know. I think I saw like, the
6.
6th one or something. It was like Home Sweet Home Alone or something.
Yeah.
None of the ones past 2 are really worth seeing, from what I remember. Unless you're Roger Ebert, in which case Home Alone 3 is the best Home Alone movie.
What? How?
I don't know. Although it's crazy, he didn't like Die Hard, actually.
Huh.
I also like the part when one of the bad guys tells John, when he's like reloading, he says, "Next time you have a chance to kill someone, don't hesitate." And then John just shoots him.
Thanks for the advice.
Yep, thanks for the advice. It was also interesting, like, he's like running, hiding the whole time, and he spends most of the movie just talking to people on the walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
There's very few scenes where he actually is face to face with Hans.
I do like the one where he finds Hans on the rooftop and just sort of plays with him for a while. And, like, pretends he doesn't know.
Because Hans is, like, doing an American accent. Which I do like Alan Rickman's American accent. I mean, he ought to be on fucking TV with that accent.
Oops, no bullets. What, do you think I'm fucking stupid, Hans?
Yes. And it's just funny seeing Hans. He's like trying to take advantage of the fact John hasn't seen him in person yet. Although he figures it out pretty quickly, though, because his real voice does slip out a few times.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of it's a funny scene. Apparently, I think Alan Rickman himself came up with that scene.
Huh.
Because he was like doing an American accent, and they're like going, "Oh, we should like put a scene like that in the movie." So it's a very memorable scene too. I like some of the scenes with the reporters too.
Dude, okay, they had some beef with journalists, and it's really funny because every journalist is like horribly corrupt and horribly inept.
I love how like the one part where Thornburg, like, he's like arguing with this reporter right before he goes on TV, and you like see like they're like say they're on the air, and you see his like angry and like annoyed face for a bit, and then he just
snaps back.
Yeah, it's funny. And yeah, they're awful. Obviously, they're just. I like when movies just show that the press is just a bunch of fucking assholes.
Because they end up, like, leaking John McClane's information out while he's trying to stay secret.
And it comes back to bite Thornburg in the ass, too, in the next one. Yeah, that's still not as bad as, opening the Ghostbusters containment unit, though. So, like he did in the Ghostbusters. I swear that dude just like he got typecast as an 80s asshole. And speaking of 80s assholes, Dwayne Robinson.
Yeah.
There were a few parts with him I thought were funny, like Powell like points out that McClane recognized their fake IDs, and Robinson says, "Jesus Christ, Powell, he could be a fucking bartender for all we know." It seems like just he always just has the worst excuses for Powell's claims. Like,
yeah,
it's just hilarious how wrong-headed he is.
Yeah.
And it's also just interesting, too, how, Hans is like, again, he's like, they're pretending to be terrorists, so they're like pretending to have political motives to like basically distract people from the fact that they're robbing a building
Yeah.
before blowing it up.
By the time they figure out what went wrong, we'll be sitting on a beach, earning 20%.
So again, like, his plan makes sense. Like,
Yeah, and they showed that it would have worked if John McClane hadn't been there.
if there hadn't been a cowboy there. Yeah, exactly. And, like, Hans, he's, like, super serious for most of the movie, but he'll occasionally have, like, little moments of, like... where it'll be a little bit, cheerful. Like, there's one part where he says,
It's Christmas, Theo. It's the time of miracles.
like, the way he says it sounds so whimsical, and it's so weird. Like... more stuff with the reporters. They have this guy on TV promoting a book called Hostage Terrorist. Terrorist Hostage.
Terrorist hostage.
That sounds like
and like he's okay. And he's talking about well, it's actually called Stockholm Syndrome. I don't know why he calls it Helsinki Syndrome.
Yeah, but like the reporter like apparently doesn't know where Helsinki is.
No. He's like, oh, you mean Helsinki, Sweden? That would be Finland.
Yeah, he looks like an idiot, like, on the air. Jesus Christ. I imagine this will get confusing. There's 2 FBI agents named Johnson. Oh yeah, there even is a
credited as...
There even is a part where they get confused on that, because, like, one of them's, like, on, like, the walkie-talkie, he says, Agent Johnson. No, the other one. And then poor Al Powell, he, accidentally shot a kid.
That's one of the weirder parts of the movie for me. It talks about how he shot, like, a 13-year-old kid, and then, like, they just play it off like he's been redeemed at the end of the movie for shooting a bad guy. Which, that feels just a little weird.
Because, I mean, granted, it was an accident, but yeah, it's still kinda, You'd think you wouldn't be a cop anymore after doing something like that. But it does give him a little more character than just, oh, he's helping John McClane. Like,
yeah,
he's a guy that has a lot of regrets in his past. I like the way Alan Rickman says FBI. Like, pauses between each letter.
FBI.
I forgot there was a W.C. Fields reference in this. Because at one point John McClane says that he'd rather be in Philadelphia when he's, like, pulling the glass out of his feet. The part with Carl, like, is, like, really mad and he's, like, smashing the stuff with his gun. And, what's her name? I don't remember what her name was, but she's like,
God, that man looks really pissed.
He's still alive. What? Only John can drive somebody that crazy.
That line always gets a big laugh out of it.
I was just about to say, the henchmen are kind of fun characters. You don't see a lot of them.
They don't talk that much.
But they're all like pretty cocky from what we can see. Because, you know, we've got Carl. We had the one guy that told John, if you're gonna... what was it?
Don't hesitate.
Yeah.
You got the one guy that just grabs a candy bar because he can.
Yeah, the candy bar.
He's like, oh, I'll take a Hershey's bar, might as well. We're robbing the place.
I know, it's just nice to see that they gave a lot of these more background characters actual character to work with.
Yeah. Also, whenever I hear Ode to Joy, I think of this movie. I mean...
It's sort of like when you hear When Johnny Comes Marching Home, you think of the third one.
Yeah. Because, you know, they like, open up the vault and, like, they play Ode to Joy. That shot of Hans is great.
Well, they also play it, like, all the way throughout the movie. Like, all of the songs are based on Ode to Joy in some way, if you listen.
That's also the part where, Holly, like, calls out Hans for being just, you know, just a thief, yeah.
For all your posturing, all your little speeches, you're nothing but a common thief.
I am an exceptional thief, Mrs. McClane, and since I'm moving up to kidnapping, you should be more polite.
Again, just Hans being a pompous asshole. Just the whole ending is great, where you got...
Oh, yeah.
He's like got, you know, John's got a gun taped to his bag. He's like trying to distract Hans by, you know, making him laugh. It's just, I love the way Alan Rickman says,
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Motherfucker.
It's like he's never said the word before, almost.
This time, John Wayne does not walk off into the sunset with Grace Kelly.
It's Gary Cooper, asshole.
He like shoots the guy and says,
Happy trails, Hans.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great ending.
Should we move into some of the cons?
There were a few other things I was going to mention. The music that plays when Carl gets shot by Al is an unused track from James Horner's score from Aliens.
Really?
So that's the one track in the movie that's not Michael Kamen's.
Huh.
And this ends with the song Let It Snow, which they missed an opportunity with that one, though. They should have had the Frank Sinatra version of the song play. Which I guess that's getting into the cons. Okay, the cons. Aside from John McClane and Al Powell, the cops in this movie are idiots.
Horribly incompetent.
And they're supposed to be LA's finest, too. They, like, say that one. But I'm like, oh my god, who the hell... It also says a lot about, like, public opinion, too. Who considers Dwayne Robinson LA's finest?
Again, that definitely to me comes off as the writers just not liking, like, cops at all. Same with journalists. Just showing them all as these smug, arrogant assholes who can't do anything.
I mean, showing, like, journalists and reporters as assholes, yeah, I could get on board with that, to be fair. And it's also the FBI, too. Like, the FBI is apparently run by assholes.
They feel like Ruby Ridge. Like, if you know what Ruby Ridge is, it feels like they were doing, like, a commentary on that, almost, where they just planned to blow up the building and kill everyone anyway.
Ruby Ridge. That happened after Die Hard, but yeah.
Oh, really?
But yeah, like, the FBI in this, they're assholes, because basically they just want to blow up the whole building, killing everyone, including the hostages. They honestly might be even worse than Hans, because all Hans wants to do is just get his money.
Just take the money.
Go away. Yeah, he wasn't really planning on killing anyone. It just ended up happening. But granted, this does kind of seem to be a thing in a lot of action movies. It's just the cops are just dumbasses.
And another thing for me, the movie feels... this is actually a common complaint I have with almost all of the Die Hard movies, actually. It feels like it's just a little too long.
Yeah, I was noticing that. Because I don't think it was necessarily that the movie's too long. I just think a little too much of it was just him running around and hiding.
Yeah.
I kind of wish there'd been a little bit more action. That becomes less of a thing in the next two movies. He's not really hiding that much in the second movie. At least I can remember. The third movie, definitely not. That movie's just him running the whole time, basically.
Sprinting across the entirety of New York as fast as he can.
There's also a few dated blue screen shots. You know, especially during the part where John's like, he's looking down in the elevator shaft. His like ear is transparent for a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, no, it always looks pretty not great.
It's a 35-year-old movie. I think it's forgivable. Also, for some reason, I wanted a Coke while watching this movie.
Why is that? I wonder. Was it because we saw?
It might be because Ellis and Hans are gonna drink a Coke in that one scene. There are parts of it, again, that I think are a little... Because it's so much wandering around the building. I kind of just wish, there was a little more, like, action during some of those scenes. I'm also more used to action movies having more elaborate stunts and fight sequences.
This one definitely kept it pretty down to earth.
That's kind of the point of the movie, is they're trying to make it feel a little more cramped, a little more realistic, but yeah, I can't think of too many cons with it, though. I mean, it's Die Hard, for fuck's sake. Like, unless you had anything, like, I guess maybe the German accents aren't very convincing.
No, not entirely.
That's
although
pretty minor, though.
Yeah, because they don't actually speak German all that much.
There are a few parts where they do, but yeah. They don't have subtitles, though, from what I remember. Yeah, so... Usually you're complaining about the Russian accents. Maybe that's one.
Yeah, no, this time we get to complain about the German accents.
Okay, so do you have anything else to add, or do you want to just move on to the overall thoughts?
I'm going to do overall thoughts.
It basically, it has the three main things you need for a movie. You need a good cast, good director, a good script. If you don't have those three things, your movie is gonna fumble a bit.
Yeah, but this one seemed to just nail it out of the park.
Yeah. Like, there's a reason a lot of people consider this the best action movie ever made. One of them, certainly. It's definitely one of my favorites. Maybe not my absolute favorite action movie, but if I had to make a list, yeah, I'd be on there somewhere. For me, the thing that takes this from being a good action movie to being a great one is honestly Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber. Bruce Willis is good, but Hans Gruber steals the show for me. He's one of my favorite movie villains. He's very smart and calculating, but also incredibly high on himself.
He's able to sell the narcissistic, smug, asshole European villain very well.
And it also helps. He has a very smooth voice too.
Yeah.
You almost see like, I can see why people are following him and like going along with his plan. And it's not to diminish the rest of the very memorable characters, but he just towers over all of them for me.
Yeah.
Because again, Bruce Willis is good. The Argyle I like, Alice I like. There's a lot of good supporting characters in this. It's just that interplay between, the smug European and the loud-mouthed American. It really works for this movie. I will admit, though, there are some action movies we've done on the podcast that I do like more than this, but this is definitely high up there for me. Like, if we did, like, another ranking thing, it'd probably be either near the bottom of the top 10 list, or it'd be like an honorable mention. It'd certainly be somewhere around there. It's a really, really good movie.
Yeah, I'd have to put more thought into it, but for me, it would at least make it into the honorable mentions category.
I was struggling with it. I was like thinking, oh god, do I like it? It's just, another thing is I've also just seen it so many damn times. I guess that says a lot if I've watched it that many times. I basically know all the beats of it. So yeah. Sorry, did you want to give your overall thoughts now? I kind of...
Yeah, so I think, like you mentioned, this movie was just sort of the perfect storm where it had a great concept, great writers, amazing performances by Alan Rickman and Bruce Willis, great music. It was shot pretty well. It all just sort of came together to make just a fantastic action movie that's endlessly quotable. It's fun to watch, and like I mentioned, I watched this.
The best Christmas movie of all time.
Exactly.
And now we'll see the sequels take the similar concepts and then not do it quite as well. I mean, I don't know. I do like most of the Die Hard sequels except for the fifth one, basically.
Yeah.
That's the only one I don't like at all. So next time we're doing Die Hard 2 and Die Hard with a Vengeance. And you just wanted to do the Die Hard trilogy, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
And until next time, Andy, Griff, If.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Good night, you stupid idiot. Good night, you miserable slob.